அடுத்த ஸ்பீக்கர் நான் கூப்பிடுறதுக்கு முன்பாக அவரை பத்தி சின்ன அறிமுகம். அவரு வேலை செஞ்ச அனுபவம் ரொம்ப குறைவு, ஆனா வேலை தேட அனுபவம் தான் ரொம்ப கூட. அதை பத்தி தான் உங்ககிட்ட நிறைய ஷேர் பண்ணுவார் நான் எதிர்பார்க்கிறேன். அவர் பேர் பாஸ்கிரன் சேகர். பாஸ்கிரன் சேகர். அவர் படிச்சது யூடிஎம்ல படிக்கிறது முன்பாக அவர் மெட்ரிகுலேஷன் ஜோஹர்ல படிச்சிருக்காரு. 4.0 சிஜிபி எடுத்திருக்கார். அப்புறம் யூடிஎம்ல இன்ஜினியரிங், பெட்ரோலியம் இன்ஜினியரிங் செஞ்சிருக்கார். அதை முடிஞ்சு அவர் மேல் படிப்புக்கு மாஸ்டர் ஆஃப் சயின்ஸ் எனர்ஜி மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் யூடிஎம்ல படிச்சிருக்கார். ஓகேங்களா. இப்ப இவர் பாத்தீங்கன்னா இன்ஜினியரிங் பேக்ரவுண்ட் தான். நம்ம 2 பேரை பார்த்தோம். அதுல சதீஷ் ஆயில் அண்ட் கேஸ் இன்ஜினியர், டெக்னிக்கல் பேக்ரவுண்ட். மிஸ்டர் தேசமணி பாத்தீங்கன்னா சோசியல் சயின்ஸ் பேக்ரவுண்ட். ஆனா அவங்க 2 பேரும் பாத்தீங்களா படிச்ச படிப்போட அவங்க செய்யறது சேல்ஸ். அஃப்கோர்ஸ் சதீஷ் டெக்னிக்கல் சேல்ஸ். ஆனா அவங்களோட அந்த பிரசன்டேஷன்லாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா அவ்வளவு அழகா அந்த கம்யூனிகேஷன் ஸ்கில்ஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். வாயில்ல பல்ல பொழைச்சுக்குன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க, பேச தரும பிள்ளை பொழைச்சுக்குவாங்க. இது ஒரு சின்ன உதாரணம். ஓகேங்களா. அவங்க 2 பேரும் பாருங்க அந்த கம்யூனிகேஷன் ஸ்கில். அதனால தான் அவங்கள அவங்களோட ட்ரேட்ஸை ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்ணி அவங்கள சேல்ஸ்ல வச்சிருக்காங்க. ஓகேங்களா. இப்ப வர்றவர் அவரோட அறிமுகம் அவரோட நாலேஜ் ஷேர் பண்ண போறாரு. அவரோட எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ், இன்டர்வியூக்கு போன எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ், என்ன மாதிரி சவால்கள் சந்திச்சாரு அதை ஷேர் பண்ண போறாங்க. அதனால அவரை பத்தி அவர் சொல்றது இன்னும் சிறப்பாக இருக்குன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். இது மாணவர்களோட கண்ணோட்டத்துல, நீங்க ஒரு மாணவர்கள் 2 ரெசியூமி எழுதி போட்டா வேலை கிடைக்குமா, 3 ரெசியூமி எழுதி வேலை கிடைக்குமான்னு அதான் ஷேர் பண்ண போறாங்க. தயவு செஞ்சு அதோட சொல்ற பாயிண்ட் நல்லா கேளுங்க. ஏன்னா உங்க சார்பில் அவர் பேசுறாரு அவரோட அனுபவத்தை. So now I would like to welcome boss and Boskiran.
Thank you, Mr. Sinapar. Thank you so much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for inviting me for this great event. Actually, கொஞ்சம் நர்வஸா இருக்கு. Mr. Sinapar வேற ஒரு பெரிய இன்ட்ரோடக்ஷன் வேற கொடுத்திருக்காரு. So yeah, I will live up to that expectation. So my sincere appreciation to dear lecturers, organizers, members of committee, dear panelists, and members of the audience lah. So this presentation may seem negative, but it is the truth of what I have faced so far in job hunting. My entire time, like this 1 year period from last year until now, what I've went through, that is the truth, and what I have went through is pretty painful also. So yes, let me share my screen. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the topic for today will be me, myself, and I. So it's about me, my experiences that I went through job hunting. So I've always thought to myself that, okay, why do we have to learn from people's successes? Because it's too common we learn from somebody else's successes. Instead, we should learn from people's failures. At least will give you some idea on how to develop and how to reinvent that failure into and make it into a success. So I hope you can learn from my failures and what I have went through for the members of audience. So the quote for today will be, Rahsia tinggal rahsia, takkan masuk TV lagi. This is one of my favorite song by Malik from the album called Okay. It's a great album. So what I meant here, what this quote really means is, okay, most of the graduates go through nowadays in securing a job is mostly kept an open secret. We do not know exactly what is going on in the background, and most graduates such as yourselves are kept in the dark about it. So over the years, if you notice that we have been given like empty promises, normally, our parents, they will say what, okay, after you get a degree, it is easy for you to get a job with a high salary, your life will be secured. I would say that is not 100% true. Do not believe that 100%. So what I would say is that all you have to understand is why I meant by saying that is you will understand that once you look at my academic qualification, and I will be sharing that throughout and what I went through as a fresh graduate to secure one job. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So the agenda for today will be an introduction of myself, a job hunting experience, and the lesson learned thus far for the past 1 year. So my name is Bosh Kiran. Uh, as usual, a regular old 26-year-old who is, as usual, went job hunting. And don't take me wrong, I'm not displaying my pointer here for bragging purposes. I'm just trying to show that, okay, even though I have achieved all of these faculty best student award, 3.98 CGPA, straight A's, SPM, however, even I also face the same exact thing that most other graduates, which is unemployment, the difficulty of facing or difficulty of getting a job out there. So, okay. So then that does not mean that I'm saying that CGPA is not important. CGPA is actually shows the amount of effort that you have put into, and even some organization even focus, they even set the requirement saying that, okay, you need to get this much amount of CGPA in order for you to qualify for an interview. So if somebody says that, oh, degree is just a piece of paper, CGPA is not relevant, please, for the love of God, run away. Do not associate with that person. So a degree is actually necessary for you to climb up the corporate ladder, especially if you want to go to a management level. So remember that. So I have did both my bachelor's degree and my master's degree at UTM. So I completed my bachelor's degree in 2018 and my master's degree I will be graduating in October 2021. Supposedly supposed to graduate last year, but it was what do you call that, extended, or it was postponed to this year due to the pandemic. So if you look at my what do you call that, my work experience that I have are very blue collar centric or very street based, not only limited to Food Panda, or maybe let's say the time I was a beer stacker at CJ Korea Express in Riyadh, a logistics company. So I was doing multiple odd jobs during this period of time. I was actually a Lala Move rider. I was doing Mrs. Speedy. I was washing cars at car washes. So a lot of what do you call it, blue collar centric jobs. So the only personal experience that I have was being an intern at Energy Edge. Energy Edge is basically a professional social media platform company that focuses more on the oil and gas industry and energy industry. So remember, I did not learn anything technical from here. What I learned here was how to network, how to establish your networking with professionals. So then currently I am a business development executive at LGMS, where LGMS is a cybersecurity firm. So cybersecurity firm is, yes, is part of the future also, where we do ethical hacking. One of our services is ethical hacking. Oh, you might think, oh, ethical hacking, hackலாம் பண்றாங்க. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு அக்கௌண்ட் கொடுத்தா ஹேக் பண்ணலாமா, இது ஃபேஸ்புக் அக்கௌண்ட் கொடுத்தா ஹேக் பண்ணலாமா, ப்ளீஸ். That is don't try to take it in that way. When it comes to ethical hacking, you want to hack into Facebook, it is a huge procedure if you want to do that. Plus the platform of Facebook does not belongs to us. So if you were to do that, you can get sued. The company can get sued. And I was like, for me, I was expecting, what are my expectations? I was expecting for a more technical experience. For me, technical experience allows me to visualize on the product, on the services provided by a company, because I'm a more visual kind of person. I learn through visual aids. So when somebody like explains it verbally, it's a bit difficult for me to grasp a certain subject. However, my experience being a Food Panda rider actually showed a very different world. So I'll be explaining in detail in my next slide. So currently, as a BD executive or business development executive, you are actually the frontliner of a company. So you're the money maker of the company. You will maintain professional relationship with clients and also try to close deals with them. And you will have to know the company inside and out. And that is how important that role is. And if you're asking if this role is related to engineering, oil and gas, energy, or anything that I've studied, anything even related to that, I would say no. Is this what I wanted to do? Maybe yes. The reason is it's a yes and a no question. Yes and a no answer. Yes, because why? I can use my communication skill, my interpersonal skills that I've gathered over time here to communicate with clients. No, the reason is I don't have the technical skills, equipped technical skills in order to communicate effectively with the clients themselves. But my main aim is to be equipped technically, specifically in engineering, oil and gas, or the energy industry. So moving on. So the key takeaway is experience helps you to know yourself even better. So get the experience, and experience is much appreciated, especially in the corporate world. And yeah, I will, another thing, just to give you a hard truth, corporate world is not like something that you have dreamt of, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe you may picture corporate life to be like you wearing number coat suit la pote, comfortable life. It's all very subjective. High salary, big cars, the list goes on and go like on and on. All you have to do is just go into the corporate world without any expectations of that, all of that bells and whistles, and try to learn. Try to gather all of this knowledge that you can gain from that organization that they are offering. So moving on to my next slide, which will be my job hunting experience. So yes, I have applied about over 300 jobs, 300 job applications, and I have went to 37 interviews in total. That's a big number. So it all started in January of 2020. All started in January of 2020, where I completed my master's and I started job hunting. Actually, technically, I started it back 5 months even before. So main point here, before you graduate, apply for jobs even before you graduate. At least few months, one semester before you complete. Make sure you are prepared. Do not make it into a last minute thing. Be prepared, like what Mr. Satish mentioned. Always have the preparation. The preparation is very important. Strategy is very, very important. So fast forward to February 2020. Yes, I got my first 2 interviews with, I believe, is a company called Dialog, quite big oil and gas company. And they survived during the downturn back in 2014, 2015. Their stock price didn't drop back then. They survived pretty well during that time, where most of the oil and gas companies was affected. And another company called Soka, I believe you have seen their advertisements all in Facebook, basically a car sharing platform. Then I noticed one thing. I've taken note on one thing, that like if you're rejected, half the time you won't notice why you were rejected. So in order to counter this, what I will usually do is I will send an email or call the HR directly to know the reason for rejection. And sometimes the answer can be pretty disappointing. The disappointing answers are mostly, they will say that, okay, you do not fit our criteria. It's just very vague answers. What I was expecting, what I was looking for is based on what weakness, how can I improvise myself from then? But however, you tend not to get that kind of answers. You tend to get very vague answers. One was actually very direct. We are actually looking for Mandarin speakers. They actually mentioned that very explicitly. So sometimes you do meet that those kinds of people also. And fast forward to March of 2020, the pandemic started. And it was a beginning of me to become a food panda rider. At the same time, it was also the beginning of my mental breakdown. Okay, let me give a quick rundown of what I did in Food Panda and what I went through. Okay, I went through I think I've met around 4 accidents. Being a Food Panda rider. I will never forget each one of those accidents, and none of that was my fault. But I still decided to ride as usual. Never mind, it is okay. At least I'm getting money. So the motivation there was money. So fast forwarding to June 2020, that is when the RMCO started, where there was an ease, there was more movement, people movement. So I started my job hunting, resumed my job hunting. However, I was in Food Panda, I was earning around 1,500 to 2,000 a week. I saved up in that period of time around 10,000 ringgit. That was my first 10K. I've never seen 10,000 before in my life. that was how much I saved. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, I was actually obsessed with money. I did Food Panda without taking a single day off, no holidays taken for 3 months straight on a daily basis, working 12 hours in a day. So the craziest thing I've did was I worked like 8 a.m. until 1 a.m. the following day. However, the money was worth it. So you might be wondering, okay, why am I having this mental breakdown despite earning a lot? Okay, there was actually a few things that was bothering me back then. One of them was the thought of me like I worked so hard. I worked so hard to achieve all of these results, participated in events, participated in voluntary events, in conventions, but it's not manifesting itself. Then I realized something. It actually brought back to an old memory of mine, where this, these old people will tend to say this. Good results will guarantee you a secure life. This is another a very funny quote actually quoted by them. You study hard, all the girls will come line up behind you. நானே யோசிச்சேன் இது உண்மையா? Then after I actually looked back and I saw there was no line of girls behind me. After that, it's a huge lesson for me never to take baseless assumption like that seriously. Anyone can say anything, but not necessarily it is true 100%. So another thing that actually was what do you call it, affecting me was back then, that was causing even more breakdown even back then was I was about to pick an order one time. Then I met a friend of mine, an old school friend of mine. Then he asked me, நீ ஏன்டா ஃபுட் பண்டா செய்யற? இல்லடா, நான் வந்து இப்ப இது வேலை தேடிக்கிட்டு இருக்கேன், இப்பதான் மாஸ்டர்ஸ் முடிச்சேன், ஸோ அதான் இப்போ டெம்பரரியா ஃபுட் பண்டா செய்யறேன். ஒரு கேள்வி கேட்டா, நல்ல வேலைடா நான் உன் மாதிரி படிக்கல, இல்லைன்னா உன் மாதிரி இந்த மாதிரி ஃபுட் பாண்டா செஞ்சுக்கிட்டு இத வேலை தேடிக்கிட்டு இருக்கணும், நல்ல வேலை மாஸ்டர்ஸ்லாம் செய்யல. After that, I seriously have no answer for that question, for that statement that he mentioned. Then I looked at his car. He was using a Honda Civic, 150,000 ringgit car, a Honda City, 80K. These cars, for a fresh graduate earning 2.5, 2.8, 3,000, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but if you do that, you have very bad financial planning. And he didn't study much. He was a lorry driver. He owns a few lorries. Now you can understand my rage and my sadness that actually went through my head. So what can you actually learn from this is, never compare yourself with other people. You will never know what they have to go through in order for them to achieve that, to gain that level of success. And success is very subjective. For some people, success is monetary. For some people, success is on their own achievement. So it all depends on the individuals themselves. So there's one time I actually snapped. I was mad. I was actually mad. I went back home. I told my parents, "Hey, you asked me to study so hard. Look at what I'm doing, like a dog. I'm working through heavy rain. நாய் மாதிரி மழையில வெயில்ல order deliver பண்ணிட்டு, sometimes even getting into fights. Customers will purposely create fights, verbal fights with you. Sometimes even the riders themselves purposely will try to cause fist fight with you because you're an easy meat one. Because the thing is, I'm a fresh graduate. They will assume that, oh, இவன் வந்து பழம், இவனுக்கு வந்து ஒன்றும் தெரியாது, இவனை வந்து ஏதாவது பண்ணாலும் ஒண்ணுமே ஆவாது. That is what you will see in the streets, ladies and gentlemen. And I told my parents, what did I do? What did I do to deserve all of this? Parents were speechless the entire time. However, I went to strategize. I still strategized my application, which is in the following slide. I altered my resume multiple times, and I did another thing. I physically went and hand out resumes to companies nearby, joining even open interviews offered by HRDF, My Future programs, both physical and virtual interviews. And plus, another addition to my breakdown was the amount of suffering that I saw in the streets. The people were during this food panda time, and most of us are actually home. I was out on the streets. The amount of people going homeless, the amount of accidents on a daily basis that you see, it's very horrifying. The amount of people actually started losing their mind. The amount of people started begging for money. It's not a situation where uh, you want to see. You want to see actually. So, however, after going through all of that, after strategizing, after planning, I have received my offer, around my job offer, after 37 interviews around March of 2021. I believe in the first week of March, I've received my first offer, which is a business development executive at LGMS. That was it was a very painful journey. So when it comes to my job hunting strategy, my initial job hunting strategy was, one, I focused initially on the oil and gas industry. I assessed first on what did I do, what degree did I do, or what industry is it relevant on. So since I did petroleum, so I focused on roles that are more oil and gas centric. However, it wasn't working out. Then I went even more further. I broadened the scope a bit, went into the energy industry. Energy industry meaning the renewable, which is directly related to my master's. However, the energy industry, especially renewable energy, is still, what do you call that? It's not mature enough. It's not mature enough yet. Then I strategized back again. So I scoped it bigger, went into general engineering. So general engineering, in this case, mechanical, electrical, any sorts of engineering. I started applying for that role. That is when finally, when that didn't work out, I followed exactly what Mr. Satish and Mr. Desamani told me. Who are you? Evaluate yourself. So I evaluated my soft skills. I knew I can communicate well with people. So then I started applying for jobs that are sales related. Sales, business development, anything related to communication. That is when I managed to get about 3 jobs related to sales, 3 to 4 jobs. Then the challenges that I faced the entire time that you will notice, one is the supply and demand of a role in the job market. One thing you need to understand, the engineering market is saturated. Just as the statistics provided by Mr. Desamani, the job market is saturated with not only fresh graduates, you are competing with people who are retrenched, people with experience. So what are you going to offer? The question now is, what are you going to offer to the employer? How are you going to be higher? How can you prove yourself better than a employed person? That is your question. Second, lack of experience. Obviously, a fresh graduate, you have no experience, so you have to gain that experience. So please use the advice given by Mr. Satish. Then he's playing hide and seek with HRs. Most of the times, HR will never respond. You have to take the effort on contacting them and engaging them. Salary expectations. Make sure some of the what do you call it, employers outside there, they will tend to give you a lower salary expectations. But it depends on how you negotiate with them. Negotiation skill is very, very important when it comes to the salary expectation part. And there are other miscellaneous factors such as location, maybe you lack of transport. Sometimes even one certificate like a professional qualification, the one upskilling that you do, one certificate that you gain may help you when it comes to gaining that job opportunity. Then the most common one is language. You tend to see that a lot when it comes to a job application. A lot of requirements, they will ask you another language. So if possible, during the time at your university, gain some knowledge or gain or learn some language skills. It's very, very important. And last but not least, connections and networking. Make sure for you, like all the ladies, the ladies and gentlemen, to get or to connect with professional people, gain their connections, learn from them. If possible, do not just simply, like, once you network with them, don't simply just go to them and just say, like, can you give me a job? No, you don't do that. That's the worst thing you can do. Gain experience from them. Ask them a lot of questions. What are the challenges faced in that specific role? How can I cater to your organization? It's all about what can you give them. They can give a lot of things to you, yes, but what can you offer on the table? That is the main take here. So the lesson learned so far, 5 things. Goal and career planning, as mentioned by Mr. Satish and Mr. Desamani also. Make sure you plan. What do you want to do? Let's say you want to be a doctor. That is only what you want to do, because that will become your source of motivation until the end, because you won't give up halfway. Once you have a goal, always be goal and career oriented. Once you have that motivation, nobody can stop you. And followed by research on your degree. Always, this is what I learned recently also. Always check the relevance of your degree on the current and future job market. Always assess that. Always, how do you call that? Always study the job market, current job market. Do not believe of what people say. Oh, okay, oil and gas ni they will tell you, okay, ni oil and gas po, anga sambalam joke இருக்கும், நல்லா இருக்கும், like that. Do not listen to that. Always go on facts, statistics, and make sure, try to future proof. Make sure that the course that you're doing is future proof. If it's not future proof, no problem. You can always upskill yourself, gain new certificates. There's always so much platforms outside there for you to upskill yourself. Then followed by networking, as I mentioned. Always establish networking with professionals through LinkedIn, through social media platforms, through even like what do you call that? There are some physical events. Previously, a friend of mine even joined golf events with professionals. She developed a network via that platform. Then always invest on yourself. We are always cheap when it comes to spending like on learning, on what you call investing in ourselves. We tend to spend on something on material, but we do not focus much on upskilling, gaining a new skill, learning a new language, earning a professional certification. These are all very crucial for the current state of the situation. Then this is another thing that I learned during this pandemic. Never ever depend on a single source of income. I've seen so much of people who actually lost their job, lost everything, literally lost everything, went homeless. So always have a backup plan. Always have a backup plan, invest into stocks, get a part-time job. Even maybe you might have a part-time business in Shopee. Yeah, you may never know. And finally, the most important one is, please do very extensive research on the company you're applying. Make sure you check the demographic, make sure you check the review, use Glassdoor. You can actually get an extensive overview of a company, and you will get a feedback on the on the role that you're applying, and pay very, very close attention to the questions asked by the employers and the way they answer them, because it might also raise some red flags. And it is actually related to my third bullet point, which is ask unconventional questions. So unconventional questions, for example, you can ask is, what is your perspective on work-life balance? Is actually a very good question. So if they might say, okay, I do not believe in work-life balance. Then you can know already the gist of it. This person has he doesn't believe in 9 to 5. He believes like the entire day can be taken up for learning. So yes, so these are all my experiences that I've gathered, that I've seen so far out in the streets, out in the corporate world, from my own analysis, from my own observation. So I would like to thank the organizers for hosting this event, and thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, boss. Thank you very much. நம்மளுக்கு டைம் ஒன்றும் கொஞ்சம் தான் இருக்கு, அதனால we try to shorten everything.
Okay.
ஓகே, பாஸ் வந்து நல்ல பாயிண்ட். அவரோட எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் ரொம்ப கூலா சொன்னாங்க. பட்ட அனுபவம் நினைக்கிறேன், அடிப்பட்ட வழி என்னன்னு தெரியல. அது அவ்வளோ ரொம்ப அழகா கூலா சிம்பிளா ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ணிட்டாங்க.